Every morning, at exactly 9:12 a.m., Marcus Hill parked his dented white delivery van in front of the small blue house on Maple Street. Not 9:10, not 9:15, 9:12. The timing wasn't part of his route schedule. It wasn't required by the company app that tracked his stops down to the minute. It wasn't written anywhere on his manifest, but it mattered. Because at 9:12 a.m., Eleanor Whitaker would already be standing behind her lace curtain, pretending not to wait. Marcus noticed her on his second week working for Quick Drop Logistics. The house had appeared ordinary at first: faded blue paint, a sagging mailbox, a narrow porch with 2 cracked flower pots. The delivery instructions were always the same: please knock loudly. I moved slowly. The first time he rang the bell, it took nearly 3 minutes for the door to open. When it finally did, an elderly woman with thin white hair and trembling hands looked up at him with cautious eyes. "I'm sorry," she had said immediately. "My knees don't listen to me anymore." Marcus smiled. "That's okay. Mine don't either, and I'm only 32. She had laughed softly at that. From then on, he started arriving at 9:12, giving her enough time to reach the door without rushing. The packages were never large. Mostly groceries ordered online, sometimes medication, occasionally books. One Tuesday, he noticed she struggled to lift a small box. "Let me bring that inside," he offered. "No, I can manage," she insisted. But she couldn't. Marcus stepped gently past her and set the box on her kitchen table. The house smelled faintly of lavender and something older, like memories. "You live alone?" he asked casually. "My husband passed 10 years ago," she replied, adjusting her glasses. "My son lives in another state. He calls when he remembers." There was no bitterness in her voice, just quiet acceptance. After that day, Marcus didn't just deliver packages, he carried them in. He tightened loose jar lids. He replaced a flickering porch bulb. He checked the batteries in her smoke detector after noticing the faint chirping sound. It wasn't part of his job description, and it definitely wasn't part of his delivery time quota. Quick Drop tracked efficiency obsessively. Drivers were expected to maintain an average of 90 seconds per stop. Falling below that meant warnings. Too many warnings meant termination. Marcus already had 2, because at 9:12 a.m., 90 seconds was never enough. Sometimes Eleanor asked him to sit for a minute. "Just until my tea finishes steeping," she would say, and he would. She told him stories about her garden that used to bloom bright with roses, about dancing in the 1960s, about her husband Harold, who used to fix radios in the garage. Marcus rarely spoke about himself, but one morning she noticed the dark circles under his eyes. "You're tired," she said gently. "Just bills," he admitted with a half-smile. Single dad life. He had a 6-year-old son, Liam, who thought delivery vans were the coolest vehicles on earth. Blainer's eyes softened. "You're a good father," she said firmly. "I can tell." No one had said that to him in a long time, not since his divorce. The truth was, Marcus needed those 9:12 visits as much as she did. They reminded him that he wasn't just a barcode scanner with a heartbeat, he was a person. But good intentions don't pause corporate metrics. One Friday afternoon, Marcus was called into the dispatch office. "Oh, your average stop time is dropping again," his supervisor said without looking up, "especially Maple Street." Marcus didn't respond. "You're not being paid to socialize?" He nodded quietly. That evening, as rain began to fall lightly over the city, Marcus sat in his van outside the blue house. At exactly 9:12 a.m., Eleanor opened the door slowly. "I made cinnamon tea today," she said with a warm smile. Marcus hesitated. The warning from dispatch echoed in his mind. Efficiency, speed, productivity. But then he looked at her trembling hands, and he stepped inside anyway. He had no idea that this small decision, this extra minute, this cup of tea, would cost him far more than a warning. The following Monday, Marcus didn't park at 9:12 a.m. He arrived at 9:16, and that 4-minute difference felt heavier than it should have. He had spent the weekend replaying his supervisor's warning in his head. "You're not being paid to socialize." The words stung more than he expected. He wasn't socializing. He was helping, but Quick Drop system didn't measure help. It measured speed. He glanced at the delivery app. A red notification blinked at the top of the screen. Route efficiency, 78%. Below acceptable range. Another warning. Another mark on his record. He stepped out of the van and walked toward the blue house, trying to shake the tension from his shoulders. Before he could knock, the door opened. Eleanor stood there, slightly breathless. "You're late," she said softly, but not accusingly, just observing. "Traffic," he lied gently. She studied his face. "No," she said after a moment. "Something else." Marcus forced a small smile and handed her the grocery bag. "I can't stay long today." Her fingers tightened around the edge of the door. "Just 1 minute," she whispered. He hesitated. The app timer had already started counting. "Okay," he said finally. Inside, the house felt colder than usual. The heater hummed unevenly. A faint draft moved through the hallway. Eleanor shuffled toward the kitchen, but suddenly paused, gripping the table for support. Marcus reacted instantly. "Hey, Heezy." She winced. "My legs. They've been worse this week." He guided her to a chair. "Have you seen a doctor?" "I don't like bothering people." He exhaled slowly. "You're not bothering anyone." She looked at him then. Truly looked at him. "You're going to get in trouble for me," she said quietly. Marcus didn't answer, because she wasn't wrong. That afternoon, his phone buzzed before he even finished his shift. "Mandatory performance review, 8 a.m. tomorrow." He stared at the message for a long time. At home that night, Liam sat cross-legged on the living room floor, building a cardboard truck from an old cereal box. "Daddy," he asked without looking up, "why do old people walk slow?" Marcus paused mid-sentence while packing lunches. "'Cause their bodies get tired before their hearts do," he replied softly. Liam nodded as if that made perfect sense. "Are you tired?" his son asked. Marcus forced a smile. Not too tired, but he was. The next morning, the dispatch office felt smaller than usual. His supervisor, Kevin, didn't waste time. "We've reviewed your route data," he said flatly. "You're consistently over time on stop 17. Marcus didn't need to check. Stop 17 was Maple Street. "It's an elderly resident," he explained. "She needs a little extra help." Let Kevin lean back in his chair. "You're not a social worker. You're a delivery driver." Marcus clenched his jaw. "I carry groceries inside, and I check basic safety things. It's not that much. It's enough to lower your performance metrics," Kevin replied. "Corporate doesn't pay for compassion." The words landed hard. "You have 2 options," Kevin continued. "Prove your time immediately, or we reassign your route. Possibly terminate your contract. Reassign. Terminate." The room felt airless. "I understand," Marcus said quietly. That afternoon, he drove toward Maple Street with a weight in his chest he couldn't ignore. He parked at 912. He didn't step out right away. He stared at the house, the faded paint, the cracked flower pots. The lace curtain shifted. She was waiting. His phone buzzed again. Reminder: maintain 90-second stop limit. Marcus closed his eyes. 90 seconds. That was the value assigned to kindness. He stepped out of the van. When Eleanor opened the door, she smiled as always. But today, he didn't walk inside. "I can't stay," he said gently. Her smile faded just slightly. "Oh," she replied. He handed her the package quickly. "Everything okay?" she asked. Marcus forced himself not to look back at the van. "Yeah," he lied again. She nodded slowly. "Well, thank you anyway." He turned and walked back to his van. And for the first time since he started this route, he drove away at exactly 9:13. Inside the blue house, Eleanor stood in the quiet hallway, alone. That evening, Marcus's phone rang. It wasn't Kevin. It wasn't dispatch. It was a number he didn't recognize. And the voice on the other end would change everything. Marcus almost didn't answer the unknown number. He was standing in the kitchen, rinsing plates while Liam hummed to himself in the living room. His phone buzzed once, then again. Something made him pick it up. "Hello? Is this Marcus Hill?" A calm female voice asked. "Yes." "My name is Dr. Patel. I'm calling from Brookfield General Hospital." His stomach dropped. "We have an Eleanor Whitaker here." The world seemed to narrow. "What happened?" he asked quickly. "She was found by a neighbor this afternoon. She appears to have fallen. Mild dehydration, low blood pressure. She's stable for now." Marcus leaned against the counter, gripping the edge. "She alone? She listed you as an emergency contact?" He froze. I'm not family." "She insisted," Dr. Patel replied gently. "She said you would answer." His chest tightened painfully. "I'll be there," he said immediately. At the hospital, Eleanor looked smaller somehow, fragile beneath the white sheets, oxygen tube resting lightly beneath her nose. When she saw him, her eyes brightened. "You came," she whispered. Marcus stepped closer. "Of course I did." Dr. Patel explained that Eleanor had likely been dizzy earlier in the day. The fall wasn't severe, but it could have been much worse. "She's lucky someone checked on her," the doctor said. Marcus swallowed. He hadn't. He had left at 9:13. Eleanor watched his face carefully. "You didn't stay this morning?" she said softly. Guilt flooded him. "I'm sorry." She shook her head weakly. "No, I understand." But he could hear the quiet loneliness behind the words. "Why didn't you call your son?" he asked gently. She smiled faintly. "He's busy, and I didn't want to scare him." Marcus sat beside her bed. "You scared me." That made her chuckle softly. Later that night, as Liam slept curled beneath his blanket at home, Marcus sat in his small living room, staring at the delivery app on his phone. 90 seconds. That was what had mattered. That was what he had chosen. His phone buzzed again. It was Kevin. "Corporate reviewed your performance," Kevin said flatly. "Your metrics improved today. Keep it consistent." Marcus felt something snap quietly inside him. "She fell," he said. "What?" "The elderly woman on Maple Street? She fell today." There was a pause. "I'm sorry to hear that," Kevin replied, though his tone held no real emotion. "But that's not related to your job performance. Not related." Marcus ended the call without another word. The next morning he parked at 9:12 again. But this time, he didn't care about the timer, didn't care about the red efficiency percentage. Walked inside the hospital room with a thermos of cinnamon tea. Eleanor's eyes filled when she saw him. "I thought maybe you wouldn't come again," she admitted quietly. Marcus sat beside her. "I should have stayed," he said honestly. "I chose speed over people. That's on me." She reached out with trembling fingers and squeezed his hand. "You came back," she said. "That's what matters." Later that afternoon, Marcus returned to the warehouse. Kevin was waiting. "We've reassigned your route," he announced without preamble. "Effective immediately. You're on industrial deliveries only." Marcus nodded slowly. "And there's more," Kevin added. "Corporate is reviewing your contract." Marcus understood what that meant. Termination. He drove home that night in silence. Liam ran to him at the door. "Daddy, did you help your friend today?" Marcus knelt down, hugging his son tightly. "Yes," he said. "Even if it costs me everything." The next morning, his delivery app didn't load. Instead, an email notification appeared. "Contract suspension pending review." Marcus stared at the screen. Helping her had cost him his route. It might cost him his job. But as his phone buzzed again, he knew something else was coming. And this time, it wasn't from corporate. Marcus stared at the email for a long time. Contract suspension pending review. No greeting, no explanation. Just corporate language wrapped around a quiet threat. Liam was at the kitchen table, coloring a picture of a delivery van with giant superhero wings. "Daddy," he said proudly, "this one helps everybody." Marcus forced a smile. "I see that." His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He answered cautiously. "Mr. Hill," a male voice asked. Calm older. "Yes. My name is Thomas Whitaker." "I believe you know my mother." Marcus went still. "Eleanor?" "Yes." There was a pause. "She told me about you," Thomas continued. "About the groceries, the light bulbs, the tea." Marcus didn't know what to say. "She also told me you stopped coming one day," Thomas added quietly, "and that she pretended not to mind." The words landed heavily. "I'm sorry," Marcus said. "I was trying to keep my job." "I know," Thomas replied. "That's why I'm calling." Another pause. "I reviewed my mother's bank activity after the hospital incident. She's been ordering online deliveries for months. I wanted to understand how she's managing alone." Marcus felt uneasy. "I hope you don't think I don't," Thomas interrupted gently. "In fact, I'm grateful." Silence stretched between them. "She listed you as emergency contact," Thomas continued. "That tells me something." Marcus leaned back against the counter. "I just didn't want her falling alone." Thomas exhaled slowly. "She shouldn't be alone." The words carried weight. "I live in Seattle," Thomas said. "I've been absent, busy, conveniently distracted." Marcus didn't judge him. He understood how life pulled people away. "But I'm coming home," Thomas added firmly. "For good." Marcus blinked. That's good." "It's because of you," Thomas said plainly. "You reminded me what I was neglecting." Marcus shook his head, even though Thomas couldn't see him. "I just delivered groceries." "No," Thomas replied softly. "You delivered presents." Later that afternoon, another call came. This one from corporate. After review, Kevin said stiffly, "Your contract has been terminated due to ongoing efficiency violations." Marcus closed his eyes. "I understand. Wish you luck in your future endeavors." The line went dead, just like that. Job gone. Income uncertain. He stood there for a long moment, phone still in hand. Liam peeked around the corner. "Daddy." Marcus crouched down. "Looks like we might need a new adventure," he said gently. Liam's eyes widened, like superheroes changing cities. Marcus smiled faintly. "Something like that." 2 days later, Thomas Whitaker arrived in Brookfield. He was nothing like Marcus expected. Tall, tired-looking, but sincere. They met outside the blue house. Thomas extended his hand. "Thank you for being there when I wasn't." Marcus shook it. "I wasn't there every time, but you came back," Thomas said. Eleanor moved slower now, but she smiled brighter. Within weeks, Thomas arranged in-home care and began renovating the house to make it safer. He also did something Marcus never anticipated. He showed up at Marcus's apartment one evening with paperwork. "My company owns a regional distribution center," Thomas explained. "We need someone who values people over metrics." Marcus stared at him. "I don't have corporate credentials." "You have character," Thomas replied simply. "It's harder to find." The position wasn't glamorous. It wasn't instant wealth. But it was stable, flexible, and it allowed Marcus to be home by 5 p.m. every day. On his first day at the new job, he parked outside Eleanor's house at exactly 9:12 a.m. this time. He wasn't in a quick-drop van. He carried cinnamon tea in one hand. Eleanor opened the door slowly. "You didn't forget," she whispered. "Never," he said. Sometimes kindness costs you comfort. Sometimes it costs you security. Sometimes it costs you a job. But sometimes it returns in ways you never expected.